läheb sõiduks tuumajäätmete ladustuskohta. Minu jaoks on see elu esimene kord ja algab sõit maa alla.
Welcome to SFR facility. We're now 50 meters below the seabed.
Below the seabed. Wow,
the seabed. And we have 50 meters of rock on top of us and then like 5 or 6 meters of water.
Forsmarki tuumajäätmete ladustuspaik on maa alla rajatud tunnelite süsteem. Kuigi me oma teekonda siia jõudmiseks turvakaalutlustel salvestada ei saanud, annab graafiline pilt hoidlast hea ülevaate. Tuumajäätmeid viiakse maapõue spetsiaalselt valmistatud ning väga aeglaselt liikuva veosõidukiga. Tuumajäätmete pikamaatransport käib aga meritsi.
Rootslased on leidnud, et kõige ohutum viis tuumajäätmete transpordiks on kasutada laeva. Ja siin kaardil on siis selgelt näha, kus asuvad nende tuumajaamad ja laevatee ühendab, et tuua ära sealt tuumajäätmed ühte kindlasse ladustuskohta.
In Sweden, we have a special system for taking care of all nuclear waste. We divide it into 2 separate categories. We have the low and intermediate level waste that we actually handle here in Forsmark and has been doing that since 1988. And then the high level waste we take care of in Oskarshamn in an interim storage where we take care of the spent nuclear fuel from the reactors in Sweden. The whole thing works as you take the fuel from the reactors and then it stays at the reactors for a year just to cool off a little bit. And then our ship, our MS Sigrid, she comes and picks up the spent nuclear fuel and she takes it down to the interim storage where we put it in pools 30 meters underground and in water. And it continuously is cooling the fuel elements. There they will have to stay for 30 to 40 years before we can handle them in the next step. This is the facility that we are in today. And this has been in operation since 1988. The little bit darker one is the one that we're going to extend this facility. Because when the nuclear power plants are being closed down and demolished, we need to put the waste somewhere. More and more of the Swedish nuclear power plants are being closed down. And when they are being demolished, some of it is radioactive. Some parts are radioactive.
You also have to keep it on the ground.
Yes. So we need to expand this facility because there's no more room for the demolished.
Siin nende akende taga ongi ladustatud tuumajäätmed. Selline betoonkilp on neil ümber. Tuumaelektrijaamad ja ka tuumajäätmete hoiustamiskohad on strateegiliselt väga olulised paigad, mistõttu ma ei tohigi teile praegu näidata läbi kaamera, kus asuvad tuumajäätmed. Küll aga ma tean ja ise näen, et siin selle klaasi taga nad on.
Forsmarki tuumajäätmete ladustuspaik on praegu 60% ulatuses täis. Kasutatud tuumakütuse ajutine hoidla Oskarshamnis on 36 aastaga ligi 73% täidetud. Seega on Rootsil vaja tuumajäätmetele ja kasutatud tuumakütusele hädasti rohkem ruumi ning lõppladustuskohta.
This is the repository for the nuclear waste, the high-level nuclear waste, and this is what we want to build here in Forsmark.
How long will this waste stay here underground?
I would say in both cases it's forever because there's no plan of taking it away from the facility. But if we're talking about how long we have to keep it separate from humans and environment, we're talking about 100,000 years. When we're talking about copper canisters, we're talking about high-level waste. So it's not the things that are in this facility, but the ones that we want to put in the repository for the spent nuclear fuel. And if we look to my right here, you can actually see it a little closer. This is to symbolize the different barriers that we have. It's a 3-barrier system with all natural materials. So the three barriers that we have are the copper canister, and then you have the bentonite clay, and then you have the bedrock. And they all have different roles in this security. The bentonite clay, that is really interesting because it has this capability where when it comes in contact with fluid or liquid, it swells up. So this kind of becomes like a buffer around the copper canister. And then you have the bedrock, which is the third barrier. And the bedrock here in Forsmark is 1.9 billion years old. If you want to get a picture of how it will look in the repository for spent fuel, you can imagine that there's a tunnel where you drill really large holes in the floor. Then you put bentonite clay inside the holes. And then we have this autonomous vehicle that comes with the copper canister and slowly raises it up and puts it slowly down into the bentonite clay. And then you put bentonite clay on top of it. And when you have filled up a whole tunnel of canisters, then you take bentonite clay and you fill the whole tunnel with bentonite clay.
Põhjus, miks tuumajäätmeid niimoodi maal hoitakse, on loomulikult selles, et looduskeskkond ja inimesed ei saaks kiiritada ja 100 000 aastat on siis välja arvutatud see aeg, mil see kasutatud tuumakütus, üldse siis tuumajäätmed, võiksid olla täpselt nii palju kiirgavad, kui see uraan algselt maalt välja võeti.
In the United States, again, we're the earliest adopters of nuclear power, and we have yet, in 75 years, figured out what to do with nuclear waste. We have no nuclear waste repository. America's huge amount of nuclear waste is homeless. That's because no community wants to have a national nuclear waste repository in their backyard. Smaller countries like Japan have this problem, on steroids. So one of the reasons Fukushima was such a big accident is because they hadn't figured out what to do with the nuclear waste. So all of that power, the Fukushima Daiichi's nuclear waste, was stored right at the plant. So when the plant blew up, that nuclear waste too was volatilized and became part of the radioactive fallout that spread around the globe after that accident. So nuclear power plants are one of those things that are going to be a sort of a contaminated site after decommissioning for hundreds and thousands of years.
See tühermaa, kus ma praegu kõnnin, sellest saab õige pea ilmselt ehitusplats, sellepärast et siia maa alla on plaanis Rootsil rajada tuumakütuse jäätmete lõppladustuskoht.
The high-level waste is lethal if you don't handle it right. You really have to take care of it in the right, proper way so that it doesn't get in contact with people or nature. If you get in contact with it, if you are close to it, you die. People die. All countries who have nuclear power are responsible for their own waste. So it takes many years of research, of course. In Sweden, we have this system. So we have a barrier system that makes the repository safe, which we have researched for over 40 years.
See tähendab, et iga riik, kes toodab tuumaenergiat, peab põhjalikult ja täpselt läbi mõtlema plaani, kuidas ladustada tuumajäätmeid ohutult ja nii 100 000 aastaks.
Should every country have its own nuclear power plant?
I believe that if you can make sure that we have the right prerequisites, you have your competence, you have your system, your safety in place, I don't see why you should not have nuclear. But if you doubt on that, if you think that maybe we don't have the ability, or we don't know how to take care of the waste, or don't have any plans, then I think you should think twice.
A range of countries are already on their way to making the transition from fossil fuels and nuclear energy to renewable fuels, with far-reaching efforts to totally transform their energy systems in that direction. And I've heard that Estonia is actually a very innovative and modern country. And from this perspective, I don't see any reason why Estonia should not be able to do the same. I think it's important to spread the risks of different energy sources by developing a healthy mix of different energy sources. And each of these energy sources will come with a set of problems. There's no energy source which is free of problems or free of risks or free of dangers. And every drop of fuel that we consume, every kilowatt of hour of electricity that we consume comes with a sacrifice somewhere, no matter what kind of energy we rely on. So this is also to say that energy saving, energy conservation is a very important task these days.
Kuigi praegu Rootsi oma riiki uusi tuumaelektrijaamu ei raja, on nende tugisammas süsiniku heitmevaba elektri tootmise juures just tuumaenergia, hüdroenergia ja tuuleenergia. Milline saab olema meie valik tulevikus elektrienergiat toota, jääb Eesti inimeste otsustada.